some with tanks, soldiers, and bombs, others with silence, symbols, and the courage to say no. On this day, there were no bullets, no sirens, no screaming crowds. But what happened in Ouagadougou sent shockwaves across Africa and far beyond. It was the day Ibrahim Traoré, the young captain from Burkina Faso, declared a different kind of war, a war without bullets. But make no mistake, it was a war that struck at the heart of foreign control, colonial fingerprints, and decades of African silence. Because Traoré wasn't just rejecting a system, he was exposing it, unmasking it, and showing millions of Africans that the fight for freedom didn't need to start with a gun. It could begin with one word: enough. It began with a speech, simple, calm, but deliberate. No shouting, no fist pounding, just the truth. We will no longer be slaves in our own land, Traoré said. And in that moment, he wasn't just speaking for Burkina Faso. He was speaking for Mali, for Niger, for Congo, for every African country still kneeling under the weight of invisible chains, currencies they didn't control, debts they never agreed to, and foreign armies pretending to protect them while quietly pulling the strings. And what was the response? Silence in Western media, nervous whispers in foreign embassies, and then backlash. But before we get to that, you need to understand something. This didn't come out of nowhere. This war without bullets had been building quietly for years. Decades of betrayal, broken promises, deals signed in Paris but enforced in Africa, young African soldiers sent to die in the name of democracy while their resources were being shipped to Europe. People had enough, and someone finally had the courage to say it out loud. That someone was Ibrahim Traoré. He was just 34 years old when he took power. Not a politician, not a career general, a captain in the army, a man who had seen with his own eyes how his country was being torn apart by insurgency, corruption, and foreign interference. But instead of waiting for change, he became it. And from the first day in office, the message was clear. Burkina Faso would no longer play by the rules of those who never cared for its future. The CFA franc? Questioned. French military bases? Suspicious. ECOWAS sanctions? Rejected. But Traoré wasn't just reacting. He was rewriting the playbook. No guns, no invasions, just bold decisions, patriotic policies and powerful words. And that terrified the people in power. Because for the first time in a long time, Africa was waking up. This young captain had become a symbol of resistance, of hope, of real independence, and the people loved him for it. They didn't need slogans. They saw a man who stood in the dirt with them, not above them. A man who didn't wear expensive suits, but military fatigues, who didn't read speeches written by someone else, but spoke from the heart. He wasn't perfect, but he was real. And realness is dangerous when the world is built on illusion. Now let's talk about what happened that day, the day he declared war without bullets. It wasn't a military parade. There was no marching, no tanks. It was something far more powerful, a decision to expel foreign troops from the country, to shut down operations that had been running quietly for years, monitoring, influencing, and shaping the future of the region without the people's consent. This wasn't just about Burkina Faso. It was a message to every African nation still holding out hope for help from the West. The message was clear: help yourself. In his own words, Traoré said, security cannot be imported. It must be built from within. And with that, 100 years of dependency was shaken. Now some called it reckless. Some said he was isolating his country. But if you listen closely, you'd hear something else: pride. The pride of a people finally standing tall. No more puppet governments, no more foreign aid that came with hidden chains, no more begging for crumbs while their gold, cotton, and uranium built skyscrapers in Europe. This war without bullets was a war for the soul of Africa. And Traoré wasn't alone. Mali stood beside him. Niger followed. Other leaders watched closely, some afraid, some inspired. And ordinary Africans, they cheered, they waved flags, they posted his speeches online with tears in their eyes. Because for once, someone said what needed to be said. That Africa is not poor, it is being looted. That Africans are not weak, they are being silenced. That independence is not a flag and an anthem. It is ownership, control, dignity. And that's what Traoré was fighting for. No guns, no threats. Just truth and the courage to act on it. And that scared those who profit from Africa's silence. Suddenly, Burkina Faso was labeled unstable. Sanctions followed. Accusations flew, but the people didn't back down. They rallied harder. They knew the cost of real freedom, and they were willing to pay it because they had seen what the other path looked like: broken promises, endless foreign loans, leaders who sold their countries for a seat at someone else's table. No more. That day the world changed, not with a bang, but with a decision. A decision to fight, not with weapons, but with self-respect. A decision to say, we are enough. And while mainstream headlines ignored it, history won't. Because when future generations look back, they'll remember this moment, not as the start of a war, but the beginning of a revolution, a silent revolution, a peaceful resistance, led by a young soldier who refused to kneel. His name, Ibrahim Traoré. His weapon, truth. His legacy, still unfolding. But one thing is certain, he woke up Africa. And once a people are awake, they do not go back to sleep. Now it's your turn. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power we hold as a people, then don't scroll past. Drop a comment below. Let the world know you're watching. Subscribe if you believe in African stories told by Africans. And share this with someone who still thinks we need permission to stand tall. Because this is how we win.